What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a look at the early access launch for Superfuse, a sort of dark comic book inspired ARPG from Stitchheads Entertainment, which is being published by Raw Fury. Raw Fury reached out to give me a key to the early access a little bit early, as I had previously made a video on the game itself from a sort of open beta period that they had just a couple of weeks ago. So I thought it would be fun to talk about the early access launch and some of the new things that have been added, as well as what you can expect in general, as just the early access period has added a few new things that I did not personally see. At the same time, much of it does remain the same. Though, for the people who did not watch that video, Superfuse is a game that sees genetically modified superheroes known as enforcers, who are used to put down corruption in the name of the gods. Though the specifics of this are a little vague in-game, humanity seems to be guided by what they just refer to as the gods, which seems to be, at least in part, an institution that they can actually make contact with and talk to. And through experiments and genetics, they created the enforcers, who go around solving problems, especially around the menace of corruption, which appears to be some sort of airborne virus that turns human beings into fleshy monstrosities. Naturally, we play as one of these enforcers, of which, in the early access period, we can choose 3, the Elementalist, the Berserker, and the just now added Technomancer, each of which has access to a few different specializations that will allow them to mix up your playstyle a little bit, but the classes themselves fall into a few generalities. For instance, the Elementalist is primarily a caster, of course, the Berserker is a melee fighter, and the Technomancer has access to a variety of robots who act as their minions. But what makes Superfuse unique and offers the most amount of fun here is that as they level up and learn new skills, they can fuse those skills with various DNA-styled upgrades called fuses that then alter the ability in some way. This can be things like simple stat boosts, or it will change the way the ability behaves entirely, such as causing projectiles to split, to shoot in multiple directions from you when you cast it, adding various effects, etc. And while that's fun in and of itself, it's core to the gameplay, as doing so actually levels up your skills, though the level they are allowed to be is a little bit gated by your character level and your fuse capacity at the same time. Every time you gain a level, you'll gain 5 more fuse capacity, which allows you to make more fuses onto your skills. And to encourage you to actually fuse different skills, they've got a sort of max level that individual skill can reach until you reach certain character levels, which has been especially interesting to play the Technomancer with this time around, as previously the Elementalist was my favorite. But with the Technomancer and their minion abilities, this becomes even more interesting because the upgrades from the fuses apply to each summon individually, and as you level up each individual summoning skill, you get more of that summon. So for my ranged minion, I was able to give them a zigzag pattern to their ranged attacks, while also giving them an ability that split that projectile if it hit the enemy. Combined with a high level for that skill, which allowed me to summon about 5 of them, I started being able to just cover the map in projectiles, which got really fun really quickly. So even with this new class, there's a bunch of fun ways to engage with that, and most of the fun I've had with this game has been around messing around with these various fuse combinations, seeing what you can do with each individual skill, which has been a lot of fun to mess around with, and a big reason I've been so interested in this title for myself. Though the aesthetic of the dark comic book thing they've got going on also really speaks to me. I enjoy the visuals on this one. The art direction is really solid, but we're not done there. The early access period itself is going to feature a portion of the main campaign that will see you fighting a few bosses, that kind of thing, through levels 1 to 30. However, once you finish what is available for the campaign, you do get to jump straight into what will be available as in-game content when the game launches, which is your enforcer taking on sort of distress calls out in space, which is our own solar system, which leads to maps with modifiers that scale to your individual character level. So if you desire to keep playing, you can deal with some randomly generated maps this way. And you can do all of that with your friends, as it does have an online mode plus a single player mode. So you can play this offline and online. And the online portion does support multiplayer, of course. And a lot of their initial testing was centered around making sure that functionality worked, but if you don't want to bother, you can play single player. On top of those things, as it stands, the current itemization feels pretty good. You can find uniques which alter your playstyle. Getting movement speed, though, will make your life a bit easier. Each class has class-specific items for themselves as well. And as is pretty standard in ARPGs these days, you can also run into rare and elite versions of enemies that will have various modifiers that offer more of a challenge, on top of interesting boss fights themselves. So all of that comes together to make for a pretty fun experience. I've played quite a few ARPGs and I've enjoyed this one immensely, even with the limited selection here. But that's the point of early access, is to take community feedback and continue growing it. But do remember, this is early access, and some of it is thus in development, which includes various skill trees, abilities, specific things on the number and balance side. But again, what I've played of it, I've enjoyed, and it certainly seems to have a lot going for it. Now, while I don't have any pricing information to hand out, I would say it's probably going to wind up in the $20 to $30 range, which personally I think would be right on the money. But that's going to do it for today. Just a quick look at a game I've been enjoying that's launching into early access. So all of that said, I certainly hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.